Machiavelli once wrote that a man who tries to be good all the time is bound to be ruined. Now, he wasn't saying you should be evil. He was making a chillingly practical point about how the world works. And it's that very idea that sets the stage for one of the most controversial books on strategy ever written.
And that book is Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. For some people, it's a brilliant guide to social strategy. For others, it's a dangerous playbook for manipulators. So today, we're going to dive in and break down its core ideas to figure out what makes this book so compelling and, so feared.
So what's the book's big idea? Well, Greene's central argument is that our modern world isn't the fair, by-the-rules place we pretend it is. He says it actually operates a lot like a treacherous, scheming, aristocratic court from centuries ago.
And here's the real paradox. On the surface, we all have to play nice, right? We have to appear fair, democratic, and civilized. But Greene gives this huge warning. If you take those appearances at face value, you're going to get crushed by the people who understand the real game being played just underneath. See, just like in one of those old courts, you can't just throw your weight around or make obvious power grabs. That's a huge no-no. It's seen as crude, and it'll get you pushed out of the circle real fast. Power has to be subtle. It's a game of seduction, charm, and strategic deception. And this all creates what Greene calls the courtier's dilemma. You have to put on this polished, elegant front, while behind the scenes, you're quietly outmaneuvering your rivals. It's kind of like what Napoleon advised. You place an iron hand inside a velvet glove.
Okay, so if that's the world we're living in, how do you actually master it? Greene says before you can even think about using any of the 48 laws, you first need to build a few foundational skills.
He boils it down to 3 pillars. First, and this is the big one, you have to master your own emotions. Second, you've got to learn to play with appearances, because perception is reality in this game. And third, you need to develop an almost superhuman level of patience. Of these skills, Greene really hammers home that mastering your emotions is the single biggest hurdle. Anger, it's the most destructive. It totally clouds your judgment. But even positive emotions like love can blind you to what's really going on. The goal isn't to be a robot and stop feeling things. It's to never, ever let those feelings dictate your strategy. And this leads right into that next skill, playing with appearances. This quote says it all. The book basically reframes deception. It's not presented as some evil, immoral thing, but as a sophisticated tool, an art form, really, that's essential for navigating our complex social world.
All right, enough with the theory. Let's see how these principles actually work when the rubber meets the road. We're going to look at 2 of the book's most famous laws to see them in action.
Let's kick things off with the very first law, never outshine the master. It sounds so simple, right? But violating this one, it can be absolutely catastrophic.
So let me introduce you to Nicolas Fouquet. He was the finance minister for the young king Louis XIV of France. Fouquet started to feel like he was losing the king's favor, so he came up with a plan. He would throw the most incredible party the world had ever seen to win him back over. And I'm not kidding, this party was legendary. We're talking a 7-course dinner with foods nobody had ever seen before, a brand new play written by the famous Molière. The gardens were so amazing, they literally became the blueprint for Versailles. Fouquet thought he was showing his loyalty and talent. In reality, he was signing his own death warrant. Here's the fatal mistake. Fouquet didn't impress the king. He made him feel small and insecure. King Louis watched all his subjects being more dazzled by his finance minister than by him. The very next day, Fouquet was arrested and thrown in prison for the rest of his life. He outshone the master, and he paid the ultimate price. Now let's jump to a totally different kind of error. This is law number 4, always say less than necessary. So Fouquet's mistake was doing too much. The danger here is all about saying too much. Let's take the story of the Roman hero Coriolanus. The guy was a legendary soldier, an absolute hero. But when he tried to get into politics, he just couldn't stop talking. He bragged about his victories, he insulted his rivals, he even attacked the whole idea of democracy. His words just screamed arrogance, and it turned everyone against him. He literally talked his way from being a national hero to an exiled enemy. Now let's contrast that with, guess who? King Louis XIV, the very same guy Fouquet failed to impress. Louis was an absolute master of saying less. After his ministers would debate some issue for days on end, he would often just listen quietly and then give a simple, chilling reply. I shall see. That unnerving silence projected immense power and kept everyone completely off balance, which was exactly the point.
So, when you strip away all the historical drama and these crazy stories, what's the core philosophy holding it all together? It really all boils down to one central idea.
It's a handbook on the art of indirection. Every single law, every strategy, it's all about achieving your goals without being obvious. It's about learning how to guide people, how to outmaneuver opponents, and how to gain influence without ever showing your hand.
Ultimately, Green frames the book as a practical guide for a game that is pretty much inescapable. Trying to just opt out, he argues, is the surest way to become powerless. His point is that you must understand these dynamics, whether you want to play the game yourself or you just want to defend yourself from those who do.
Which leaves us with the million-dollar question, right? Is this book just a cynical, amoral manual for manipulators, or is it a brutally honest, pragmatic guide for surviving in a world that isn't always as fair as it seems? Well, that, of course, is for you to decide.